All right. Guys, give a hand for Devers Plexi. Come on, that was the shit. All right, so gather in, gather around, grab your drink, grab a beer, grab your food, grab your napkins. We're going to get cracking on announcements here in a minute. But take a seat, and I'll be right with you. Okay. On the hot spot. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know it's kind of a big deal to bring these two communities together. I'm very grateful that everyone was able to make it out today. I want to kind of kick things off with a few just informational pieces. So first off, did anybody park in the garage? Raise a hand. Okay, so quick little thing on the garage. Up at the front, at the end of this event, if you park in the garage, you get a voucher, so it only costs $5 to park in the garage. If you want to pay more than $5, be my guest. But if you only want to pay $5, be sure to talk to the person at the front to get your parking voucher. Sound good? In front of the big robot here. Good question. Thank you. Let's see. So, as I mentioned before, I've got the sign-in sheet going around with that gentleman right there. His name's Luke. Came all the way down here to help us out. If you haven't signed in, please sign in. It would help us out greatly. Plus, you get the raffle ticket for a chance to win that awesome, sweet ticket to Awesome Game Conference. Let's see. Everyone, I'm sure, got a name tag. I see a lot of name tags. If you didn't get a name tag, there's some at the front. They'll help with networking. Some of them are for game developers. Some of them are for musicians. That way you can find out who's who. Let's see. Also up at the front, did all of you get information flyers? No? Honestly. Frank, could you grab me the one-shooters? So one of our goals when we were putting this whole thing together was to make sure that this wasn't just going to be like we want this to be fun, but we also want people to walk away with something, some information, because one of the challenges that we really wanted to basically get over the hump on was we have these great game developers in Austin, we've got these great musicians in Austin, so how can we bring people together? So, let's see, where is it? You got it right there? Perfect. So this gentleman right here, he's got a list of everybody that is going to be on the panel tonight, the sponsors including ATX Music, Austin Game Devs, Austin Game Conference, a couple of community pages, so that way you guys have some information to take home with you as far as, you know, who's really in this community. Let's see. I trust all of you got food. I think that's pretty solid. Drinks. There's trash cans that are around. Please, once you're done, put trash in the trash. That's a big help for cleanup later. Let's see. Also, throwing it out there. I put up a bunch of stuff at the very beginning of this thing. Let me pull out of here. So up on the page, I have this whole list of links. Did you guys see this? One second. Prepping for the event. Oh, that actually reminds me. If you need Wi-Fi, they have the Wi-Fi codes up at the front desk here. So if you need to log in, log in. But on this page here, I have a whole list of essentially links. So some of them are questions for the panel. Some of them are also, if you are a game developer looking for musicians, here's that list. If you're a musician looking for game developers, here's that list. Take a look at that post, fill out anything that you need to. I just want to make sure everyone's kind of talking together. At the end of this whole thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out those lists for anybody that wants to sign up for them. That'd be a big help. So that's kind of it for, let's see, kind of like the logistics. I want to say that the next event, so as far as game development is concerned, there's actually a game developer event, another one, in 2 days. It's actually the Austin Game Audio Meetup, and it's going to be, I believe, over at, where is it?
Good night.
Good night, thank you. Good looking out. So if you want to meet some game developers that specialize in audio production, check that out. In fact, I can actually post that up as well. That's really annoying. Okay. Outside of that, let's see. That's really it. So at this point, what I really want to do is kind of introduce everyone that's making this happen. A big part of the reason why we are here is Capital Factory. They've been super gracious with us, and to kind of kick things off as far as giving some info, I want to turn it over to Danny. Say hi to Danny.
This is my first one of these, to talk. So, hello. I'm really glad you're all here. We love hosting you guys. We actually are considered the center of gravity here in Austin for tech entrepreneurs. Some of you know that line, I see that. We're just really glad to have you. We love to have things like this. We love to have you guys all come here and get to experience all of it. So keep having these awesome things so we can keep having you here. Thank you.
I hope you guys like the food. Do you guys like the food? Yeah? Yeah? Pizza's alright? Food's alright? Napkins? You like those plates? Those plates are the shit, right? So all of that was brought to you by ATX Music, the ATX Music and Entertainment Division. They've been super helpful because they really want to help all of you kind of meet each other. So to say a few words, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, I'm Erica Shanley. I'm the division manager for the Music and Entertainment Division for the City of Austin. I just want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you guys for the panel. Here, let me back up a little bit. So we really want to see ways that we can have our musicians make more money. We're really concerned that we'd like for these musicians to have careers that actually pay for sending their kids to college, buying houses, just having a regular old life. So our goal is to show all the different kinds of revenue streams that are out there for musicians. And so it's panels like this to show musicians as well as other businesses is how we can combine the two so that we can start working together as a community and start steering some of this work to our local musicians. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you guys, and take it away.
Thank you so much. We also have some information up front for people to take home as well, right?
Yes, we do.
And some swag?
We have some swag.
Perfect.
And we have sunglasses that are saying really cool things on it. ATX Music.
Perfect. All right, yeah. Please support ATX Music because they're trying their best to support you guys. If you have any information, of course, afterwards we're going to be having a networking session anyway. So if you have questions for them, that's why they're here, right? So let's see. Beer. We did get beer, right? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
He's got a big thumbs up. Did all of you get a beer?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. The beer is brought to you by Austin Game Devs. That's going to be Frank Hoppersmith. I want to introduce him. He's another big reason why this is all put together. So take it away, Frank. Thank you.
I love it when we give away beer at our events because the more you drink, the funnier I get. So that's really good for all of us. So I'm Frank Hoppersmith. I chair the Austin Game Developers Association. Our mission is to help great game developers make great game companies. And that's why this event is so exciting for us. It's really a passion project. Probably about 3-4 months ago, we were talking to the city, and I learned really for the first time how challenging it is for musicians in what I guess you might describe the new Austin, the tech hub Austin. Fewer places to practice, fewer venues to perform, harder and harder ways to make a living. We get it over in the indie game space. We feel that pain sometimes. And so here we are, though, doing great on the game side with about 135 studios, probably twice that on the indie side, a couple thousand folks. And we thought, why on the game side are we going out to Audio Jungle and SoundCloud for the same music all my competitors have when I'm sitting here with this great group of talented people? And so let's find a way to bring those together. And we know it works. We know it works because I've got some friends of mine who have a really successful game company. They've got a great game up on Steam, and they did something really interesting. They released their soundtrack up on Steam. They didn't know why they were really doing it. They thought, hey, maybe somebody would buy it. They might sell a couple of them. Well, anyway, that soundtrack, right after they launched one of their big expansions, landed on the second page of the Steam top selling. And that's not a bad place to be when it's stuff you've already paid for and you're just getting to monetize again. So that's a lot of fun. That's really exciting. That's a great lesson for independent game developers to learn and to hear. And here we are, bringing all of you together. So I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I want to thank our panelists who we would not be able to do this if you had not come out. And I also want to thank the Austin Game Developers Association title sponsor. That's Michael Best. They're an AmLaw 200 law firm here in Austin. Sorensen, thanks for coming out and representing Michael Best tonight. Round of applause for Sorensen for doing that for us. because if it wasn't for those great sponsors that we have, we wouldn't be able to do this. So that's enough for me. I'm going to turn this back over to Randall. Thank you very much.
So I keep mentioning the Austin Game Conference. I want to ask you a question. Does raise of hands, who knows what the Austin Game Conference is? All right, that's a pretty good turnout. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. I want to take this. What's up?
Wow. You see that?
Just hold it as far away as possible. Thank you. So to say a few words about the Austin Game Conference, I want to introduce Gordon Walton.
Howdy. So I saw about a third of the people raise your hands. Austin Game Conference, we're in our third year of the reboot of it. And it's going to be about the same size as last year based on current registrations, which is 800 or 900 people are coming. It's a professional conference, so we have lots of sessions for professionals, and we do have a soundtrack this year, sound and music track. So please sign up for the Austin Game Conference if you haven't already. The pre-prices got extended through the 1st because of the hurricane, and the reg code for an extra $50 off is Austin Game Conference VIP, AGC VIP. So the initials of the conference plus VIP on the end. We'll get you another 50 off. And if it doesn't work, just ping him and he'll tell you. Because he's easy to get since you know him for getting here. Any questions about the conference from anyone? Yes?
Who are your keynotes?
Keynotes, we have a guy coming from, what's her name? Amazon, those goddamn Amazon people. Amazon Games, you know. Who's coming to talk about games, and we also have the guy who did Pokemon Go from Niantic, is that the name of that company? Coming to talk about that stuff. So that's kind of an interesting year and a half afterwards, after action report on that thing. So pretty interesting stuff, but when you look at the full array of speakers for stuff you're interested in, I almost can guarantee it's more than worth the price of admission to get that stuff. And really, we made it for the networking between all the people who come. Not only the people here in town, but the people who come from out of town. So you'll see there's like 30-minute gaps between sessions on purpose to let there be lots of networking going on. And I think that's it. AustinGameCon.com. CON.com.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but I've got it posted up here, kind of on the side as well. AustinGameCon.com. Check it out. It's a huge networking event because last time what ends up happening is, sure, the event stops, let's say at like 6 o'clock or so, like that's when speakers talk, like the speakers stop talking. And everyone just goes down to 6th Street, hangs out, has a good time. This year there's an unbelievable audio track. So it's something to take a look at. And again, if you sign up on that form, we are raffling out a free ticket to this whole thing. The day of price is $550. So hey, you know what? If you can get a free ticket, that's badass. And if you don't get it, it's still $50 off now. And I think it's early reg. I'm pulling it up on the side so you guys can kind of see this. But let's see. Register is super early was $249. We already missed that, so we're kind of at this.
No, $349.
Yeah, we're at $349 right now. So if you don't get the secret golden ticket, it's still going to be $300 with this discount code that Gordon mentioned. And again, if you need more information about Austin Game Con, he's one of the leaders that's running the whole thing. Pester him. He loves getting pestered.
Volunteers.
Fun. So another quick little thing here. Anybody that, if you do take some sweet pictures, please post it up on the page. That'd be a big help on Facebook. That way I can kind of collage all this sort of stuff together. Be a big help. Outside of that, are there any questions kind of before we kick things off? Does anyone need a bathroom? Oh, does anyone need to go to the bathroom? I kid you not. No, there's not a space here in this area for the bathroom. Do you know where the bathroom is? No, I see a lot of this. So you have to exit out, and it's past the stairwell. There is a bathroom over there. We still got a little bit of time before panel kicks off. So if you guys want to take 10 minutes, grab another drink, go to the bathroom, do what you ever need to do. We'll go ahead and meet back here in about 10 minutes. Kick the panel off. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Hang out.
How are you? We are training for park. You make park? It's art?
It's very intimidating. I mean, I don't know, a couple months of playing in the underdogs sort of like really get my hands going on. And honestly, I had to only want outside those doors, right? So I really understood like why it was exciting to do things the hard way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I mean, it doesn't force your creativity down a certain pathway.
Yeah. You can be creative on a lot of different levels. Right. How was it create a generative system for a lot of really interesting ideas?
Where do you start? Do you start with
You mean in my business? Yeah. I'm all analog. I'm old school as hell. And that is both to stop me and I don't actually know anything about digital systems design. I know some analog electrical engineering, and so that's what I design. But yeah, you all I mean, if you do start, you know what's on it next. It is actually amazing. But like, your statement has to be pretty deep. So it's really rewarding.
Yeah, that part, I feel like it's very much like
And I like playing with my modular because I really get comfortable with the sound design and creative systems. It's a different place than it is. So, it's more of like a different system. It's really and they give us definitely card, but here, that's my personal card, that's it's actually actively looking for me on my side. So that'll be quick, so that's what I'm saying.
That's a great website.
But like the website, you should be able to we have a new oh yeah, sorry, I said you too. Yeah, we have a new song or music will be up on the site within the next week. We also made a music it's very abstract. So you guys, any announcement for music? I've never done any listening over the but we have but a lot of times I'm generally someone like sort of design a system that is creating music for us on a whole entrepreneurial synthesizer and then record it for very large quantities of time, which we think would be really ideal for a game because it's like it stays within it's not like on some great creative one, it sort of stays within the bounds of the soundtrack. Consistent have one vibe and everyone's good at the same time. It doesn't get like it doesn't hold on you the way you listen to a piece of music for a long time. Because it's like little things that shift, bits of rhythm moving around, melodies change or they change in that interaction with each other. And so I think that yeah, we have very large amount of stuff going getting involved in stuff is really interesting because there's a need for like an indefinite length piece of like consistent music that will be pleasant to listen to however long you do the activity. Involved in making some music probably a decade making music and 4 or 5 years of just being which is also about the same coincidental, the same amount of time I spent building hardware in like doing that. So the two halves happened like started dating
Yeah, so that's a great example. Yeah, actually, that would be good. I think we would do
There's one. Oh, yes. It's not actually because it was processed absolutely But yeah, like it's just like everyone this 20 piece is the whole album. Yeah, I think they're like
Come on in, get situated. Take your seats. Hey, before we kind of really jump into it, and we'll do introductions here in a second, I did want to do a quick shout out to a couple people. So first and foremost, once we get into networking, I did want to pinpoint a couple other people that happen to be here. I'm very happy that they're here. So Esteban, who's from South by Southwest Gaming, meet him afterwards, say hi. I've got Chloe Jadowski over there. She's actually from the from Ayuga, which is the game art meetup. So if you are a musician and looking for art leads, she's a great person to know. Also have Colin Blankenship in the back here. He runs ACC. He's a guru samurai master when it comes to that stuff. So afterwards, if you have questions for him, reach out to him. So we've got a lot of awesome people here. By the way, this space, I mentioned Capital Factory's been a huge bit for us. They've been a huge get for us for a while. I also want to throw out to Finn over here in the back, who's stuffing his face with a sandwich. No, don't look at me! Nobody's here now. No, so Finn knows everything there is about AR, VR. He is an absolute machine. So if you have questions in that regard, I'll let him know. I also have Dan here on the side. Dan is a huge proponent for everything and all things Austin game devs and has a lot of information as far as honestly working with musicians here in town. So if you are a musician and want to know a little bit more aside from what we're going to be doing here, he's also a great get to talk to afterwards.
Love you, Dan.
So with that, we good? You guys good? We solid? That's either like stuffed faces or I don't give a shit. You guys ready to do this or not? Yeah, alright. Perfect. That's what I want to hear. So, let's see. And as soon as I say that, I gotta put in my damn password. Hold on. Alright, don't worry.
I know your password.
Yes. Okay, so there we go. So I want to kick things off here, and I want to introduce the panel. And I'll start off. We'll do a mic check. You good to go?
Yes.
Okay.
So, my name is Daniel Perry. I am my official title is the Emperor of Soundwaves at Alchemy Labs. In my empire, I do sound design, audio, voiceover directing, and voiceover recording, and music composition, production, and everything internal at Alchemy Labs. Alchemy Labs, we make VR game experiences. You might be familiar with Job Simulator, that recently won a lot of awards. And Rick and Morty Virtual Reality. I'm originally from Israel. That's it. Been in the US for about 10 years, something like that.
Right on. My name is Jared Marshall. I'm a local musician here in Austin, like probably a lot of y'all in the audience. I have sort of a strong engineering background, so I've been an audio engineer for over 10 years. Freelance, started my own business in that way. I've also done a lot of sort of mixed media projects, so a lot of intersections with film, performing sort of live improvised scores to different films of the experimental nature specifically. And I've also led a bunch of groups locally to some sort of notoriety. So yeah, that's basically it for me.
I'm Adam Creighton. I'm the studio head for Panic Button, an independent studio in town here that's going on its 10th year. We kind of do everything. We like hard problems, very hard networking or engineering or content type challenges. Do everything from Disney Infinity, Connect Star Wars, Rocket League is a big thing. Xbox One, we're doing the Nintendo Switch version. Nintendo announced yesterday that we'll be having playable as packs later this week, so you always got great. In addition to work I do at Panic Button, I'm a professional voice and film actor, so I kind of work on both sides and see a lot of that in Austin. Thanks for having me.
Hello, I'm Phil Johnson. I'm an engineer, designer, creative director, founder of this game company called Invisible Collective, and we are most known for Battle Sloths, having recently done the latest iteration Battle Sloths 2025, The Great Pizza Wars. We're distinguished as being the first indie game published by Rooster Teeth Games, and lifelong music fan, so it's a huge privilege to be here. Also, I do work with Panic Button, so.
So I kind of want to set the table here a little bit. This is such a big topic. Like, how do we solve problems for all musicians and all game developers in Austin? Let me set the expectation. We're not going to solve everyone's problems tonight. But what we really wanted to do, like goal-wise, was kind of get this conversation started. We have some of the best game developers in the world. Like based on what chart or graph you look at, Austin is either number 5 or number 6 in the world when it comes to game development. So you've got some of the best artists and programmers when it comes to game. We have big companies that are doing huge with winning lots of great awards. And then on the other hand, Austin's known for being the music capital of the world, the live music capital of the world. And we've got unbelievable talent here. So there's not enough of hey, we should all kind of meet together. That's why we're doing this. With that said, we're not going to solve all problems in this one conversation tonight. But the whole point of this, our goal is to get everyone talking, right? So I encourage you afterwards when we get into networking, reach out to each other, be honest, and we'll kind of go from there. That's basically it. Now with that, I want to do like a quick, just little visual survey. So raise your hands. Who here are musicians? Yeah, musicians, a lot of musicians. All right. Who here are game developers? All right. So you guys can see each other, right? Like this isn't like a fake mirage. You can see each other, right? Perfect. Yeah, you want to do it again? Game developers, musicians, game developers. Perfect. All right, we're all here. I'll segment it out a little bit more. Who here they feel they're kind of more like on the beginner stage or kind of getting started? We'll start there. Just kind of getting started. It's fine. You can raise your hand. I suck. All right, I'll be honest. I'm the producer. I can't program. You good? All right. Who here is more seasoned? They've been around for a while. They know what they're doing. They kick ass. We got a lot of modest people. All right. Well, that kind of gives us a gauge. We got some people that are beginners, some people that are advanced. Maybe more people are in the intermediate stage. But that's good because that's going to help us kind of get a better understanding of what matters to you guys. So, opening it up officially behind schedule. Jesus, I'm supposed to be the project manager. Jesus. All right. I'll kind of throw this out as far as let's kind of start here. How that's a good place to start. I got information overload here. How about this? How should game developers find musicians in Austin?
I think networking events like this are a great place to start. Honestly, I go to networking events all the time and I'll meet a composer almost every single time. If it's not someone I've met already, I tend to meet them pretty quick because I'm a big music geek. So, I don't know, just keep going to those events, go to the game dev meetups, stuff like this.
Do you think a lot of people know about the game developer meetups?
If they want to get into games, I think so. That would be you start looking up how to get into the game industry, but networking is the biggest thing that just pops up right away. If you're not networking, then it's kind of hard.
But to that point, what is networking? Because really the bottom line is not just to give an intro and to start business. It doesn't work like that. But it's to show well-roundedness, I guess, in those events.
Yeah, it's building relationships, right?
Yes.
A lot of times when you're doing these networking events, it's not how many people you meet, though that's great, I enjoy it. A lot of it is the quality of the people, the quality of the contacts, and whether or not it helps you grow. I like to run my company in a way that I'm in it for the big win, even if the big win doesn't involve me or my company. There's a lot of people I'll interact with and build relationships with. We're doing projects now that I started conversations with 12 or 14 years ago. I like people. And one of the things you can do as game developers are looking for musical folks or voice actors or anything else, I spend a lot of time listening to stuff, looking at people's websites, portfolios, and then reaching out to those people even if I don't have a need at the time and just say, hey, really like your stuff. This is what I'm very concrete about what I say. And that usually starts a conversation. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I want them to know I like their stuff. I want them to have some feedback. And then social media is another really good place. We're finding everything from game development to musicians to voice actors to anything else. The really active folks are really active folks. And you get a sense of who they are outside in. It's not who they really are, kind of a sort of, hopefully, I hope we're not who we are on social media. But it's a starting point for a conversation.
Actually, so I want to jump on that a little bit. Do you look at, when you're looking for any kind of musicians, are you looking at specifically, are you looking at YouTube, are you looking at SoundCloud? When you're looking for musicians, kind of where are you going?
I kind of go all over. I look at SoundCloud, I look at YouTube, I look at a lot of local sites. A lot of people who are in kind of my network will send me things. Hey, Adam, I saw this band. They're really amazing. I want you to check out these clips. I still listen to physical demos that I get. I send out physical demos. So I listen to everything I can get anywhere. But I do a lot of SoundCloud. That's been very easy for people to throw things up there really quick and then fire stuff off, even if they're not worried about doing a kind of normal portfolio presence. And it lets them put their work up there and show their diversity in their
Right, and in anything, I like the local community, and let's say for my needs, for example, I already do the compositions. I don't need a composer, for example, but I do need performers, and I do need studio musicians. The last thing that I needed was actually voiceover actors, and I published it around in different Facebook groups. So that was my way of getting people, and I think my main approach is if I do it as a cold post on a Facebook group or something, I expect to see a good demo reel or something that really represents the talent that I'm looking, because if it's even slightly off, then I would know that there is a possibility that I'm wasting my time and the other person's time, but it also will cost me a lot to fix it. So I'm looking for the most polished demo reel possible, hopefully with the ability to back that up with talent at the session itself. And it's about keeping relationships. So for me, I keep a list of whoever I used in the past and proved to be awesome and amazing and that I would definitely want to work with again, and they will be in our next games for sure.
I would say too, for game developers to check out the live scene. There's a lot of us that are performing multiple times a month. We're playing these gigs, working hard, kind of like getting our name out there. So part of that would be what do you want for your game? What style of music? What do you think is going to fit your project? And then start searching around. There's a lot of music in Austin. There's a ton of music. I myself have played in several completely different genres. And I can do that in the same week. Depending. I can do a free jazz gig, and then in the same week do an electronic gig. So there's a lot of music happening in Austin, and it's worth just kind of looking around for, and kind of like you said, if you're out there, you're out there. So if you're performing, if you've kind of got your stuff together, you'll be posting these events. There'll be ways to find you. So I would say that as well, go see a show, go check out some live music and see people who can really perform, who have a unique vision, or have a unique sound, and, keep tabs on them, and then look at the web stuff too, because a web rollout is also just that. It's like your virtual self, right? I mean, I'm all about, how are you in person? How do you work in person? And so, kind of to what you're saying, you want to have people that can deliver, So there's a lot of people that are crafty and can make stuff look cool, but it's can you do it now? So that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in people being able to deliver right now. So if you say something, can you do it now? I believe that all the stuff that I've said, or stuff that I work on, I can do it right now. So give me the tools I need, I'll do it right now. So that's my
Hey, on a tactical level, does that kind of look like, all right, so looking at both sides, right? So if I'm getting involved with looking for musicians, does it kind of help if I go to a musician's page, here's the information, kind of on a, you need to advertise yourself as a musician, but at the same time, would there be a separate page that's hey, here's me as a studio musician, here's the stuff that I do, here's this separate contact maybe, a portfolio?
So if someone plays guitar, for example, and wants to be hired as a guitar studio musician, he has to have this solo guitar track, a solo, I mean, in like a guitar alone track with rhythm and solo or whatever is required to showcase his skills. And if that fits one of the categories of the songs that I'm currently writing, and I'm like, this is the sound I want, then this guy will get a call. If he doesn't have it on the page, and if he has instead like his band performing, I wouldn't know what his actual skills are. So yes, like production value, showing that it's like a demo reel. It's like voice actors. If there's a voice actor that does great animations, but his demo reel is only for commercials, it's like, oh, the thick and big voice, but doesn't do the cartoony animated voices, then I know this guy can't do it probably, or he doesn't represent this as his skills, so that's not what I'm going to hire him for. So I'll look somewhere else for that. In a similar way, the approach would be for like guitarists, saxophone players, like, or bands and things like that, and producers, of course.
How about the other way around? I mean, like we can say like this is what musicians need to do, but what do game developers need to do?
I can feel that because when I made Battle Slots, like I was the one who had no portfolio. I was the one that had this basically this game jam with no real music in it, and just a bunch of sounds we got from freesounds.org, and I'm having to convince people to get involved in our project. And so, like in the process of making when we signed the Humble Bundle original deal, like 2 years ago, that legitimized the project big time. We got a little chunk of money that we could throw around, and we spent a lot of it on musicians. We were fortunate enough to get Jason Graves, the composer, to work on our project for a small fee.
By the way, no, I love this story because this is all you found this all happened through social media, right?
Not quite.
Okay.
He was
You tell the story. I don't know.
Yeah. So Jason Graves is just a developer who lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's where I was living at the time, and he was friends with Randy Greenback. And I would come to these meetups, and I kind of would go talk to him, and I was wanting to talk about the synthesizers he used in the Breach and Clear Deadline soundtrack. And so he kind of seemed like he had an affinity for me already. So when it came time to ask him to do us a huge favor and do a score for our game, we found a time. He cranked it out in like a week, and it was just like ridiculous. And it was just kind of like, here's your music, no revisions.
Because it doesn't happen without the networking part of it, right?
Absolutely. I guess I need people are not familiar with Jason Graves. This guy did the last 2 Tomb Raider games. He also did the Dead Space soundtrack for every single game in that series. His portfolio is absolutely ridiculous. And, we just had this like little kind of party game. We're just like, please work on our game. And so I think as part of it was just that he liked us. And then there was the other thing that we ended up doing for the Humble Originals, which we did the rap song. And it was pretty much the exact same deal. We met Michael Kill, the nerdcore rapper. I had no idea who he was or really a whole lot about the nerdcore scene, but he knew that he found out pretty quick that I had a pretty big passion for independent music and hip hop and stuff, and knew that I was legit in that way. And so I asked for the most ridiculous thing. I wanted like a posse cut with like 9, as many rappers as we could possibly fit on the song. And he's like, let's do like a 5-minute song with 6 rappers. And we assembled like Mega Ran, Chesky, Sulfur, Dizzy Dangerously, Michael Kill, and Adam Warrock in this killer track that we ended up calling Middle Claws Eye. And I ended up like unwittingly writing the hook for this thing. But that was all networking. Like I wouldn't have met Michael unless I was going at these events and taking curiosity in what people do and going home and plugging in their Bandcamp link or whatever and checking it out. And it was extremely fruitful to kind of just meet these people halfway and check out their stuff.
I think a lot of it is it's holistic, right? It's the relationship side of things, it's the right time, right place, it's having the right samples. I mean, honestly, there's different samples for your work. I hope people don't send the same cover letter and resume to every company. You shouldn't. It should be unique for every company you go to. Same with the samples you have. Like my voice acting stuff has got my industrial, my commercial, my book, and my animation and radio. And I have all of those different things, and then I'll cut different tracks occasionally for different items where there are gaps in my portfolio, so I can point to someone and say, hey, go listen to this or go look at this. So I think it's important to be ready to build those things and always be making stuff. I mean, that pushes your craft forward, lets you find out what you like and what you don't like. There was a one musician that I went to here in town multiple times. Once it was for electronica, and once it was for chiptunes, and once it was for an operatic piece. And he had all of those, including acoustic guitar and some other stuff he was doing. So he was just always experimenting with these things, putting the stuff that he liked and thought represented well in his sound. He wasn't putting everything in his sound cloud. Just like your art portfolio, do not put everything in your portfolio. Get people who do not love you to critique your portfolio and have them remove stuff that sucks.
Would you advocate, like, if I was a game developer and I happened to be here in the audience and I went and there's a musician that wanted their stuff critiqued, would you encourage that? You know,
I think for me it's always fine.
feedback?
Yeah, it's always fine to ask. You know, so people are super busy, but I think it's there's a balance between like being bold and assertive and being annoying. But I think it's always good to ask, to show your passion and say, hey, I've got a portfolio. I know you don't have a need right now, but I appreciate some feedback. You know, it's on me to say whether I have time or don't have time. At our studio, we try to reply to everybody that comes in through our different mailboxes. I respond personally to a lot of those. Before I respond to any audio folks or art folks or anything like that, I look at portfolios, I listen to portfolios. So those responses take longer, because it might take a couple of days for me to do that as far as the instant response after looking at a resume. But it's important, because that way I can get feedback. I can say, hey, I like this thing, and go from there.
Yeah, and like just like a small basic rule, like if you're gonna critique, try to like start with like a few positive notes before you get into like picking stuff apart. Because it just kind of like sets a positive, friendly, helpful tone.
Yeah.
Well, you should know how to do that. Like that is a conversation, right? You need to kind of know each other and be, flexible and be honest with each other, so you can get that feedback. Because otherwise, I mean, to be honest, we're wasting each other's time. Like you can't be too nice. You know what I mean? Right? Like there is that kind of line that says like, listen, it's just not gonna work, right? You're great just for this project, whatever, but we'll go grab a beer and hang out later and talk about stuff that's happening. But for this project, hey, it is what it is, right? I'm curious. So you actually touched on something I thought was kind of pretty key. So your soundtrack ended up kind of working out really well. I'm curious for the rest of everybody here. Is there like a favorite soundtrack or a game music score or like a game music success story that really resonates with you and maybe like a peak thing with you? And Jared, I'll kind of jump to you a little bit, because you had mentioned before you really believe in putting a personal sound into the work.
Absolutely, yeah, and that comes from both parties once again. That comes from the musician putting your sound is, that's your currency. I mean, that's what it is. If you're, I just don't believe in pandering of any kind. So if you're not doing your sound, then people are not hearing you. They're hearing you do some version of something, and what's interesting about that? And to answer your question, and we talked about this, but yeah, I am a huge fan of Disaster Piece. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this guy, but I'm putting it out public now. If you didn't know, like, look this guy's stuff up immediately. But so he worked on Hyper Light Drifter and Fez, which probably some of y'all have played. I found, because I actually kind of like left gaming a little bit, to like really focus on music, and I was like stunned to hear this music, because this is real music. This is music coming from, I can just hear it. This is coming from him. It's unique. I've never heard anything like it, and I think actually him by himself, like, take the game away, I think he by himself has advanced synthesizer music. In general. And so as a fan of synths and, electronic music and, this type of production, I was blown away. And he actually influenced my music, just like my personal music. So I was like, I'm gonna play stuff like this. And I actually have used some of his tracks live. So I played improvised drums to some of his music from Hyperlight Drifter and stuff like that. So I like to incorporate, anything that is like really influencing me, that's gonna go like straight into my set. And I'm gonna kind of like feel that out and play around with it. But yeah, so Masterpiece. Check it out.
But all right, so to that though, I mean, you have to be true to yourself, right? At the same time, you got to get people to get to that gig, right? So if I'm a game developer, like, there's got to be that send out that says, hey, you should check out this gig, because game developers need to find you. Because and total hypothetical. Let's say Philip here is working on a game, and he's got like a particular style, and for God's sakes, he's got all this down. But as soon as he sees your show, he goes like, that's the music. That's what's going to click with this game. How can we have that happen more?
That's $1 million question, man. That's what we would all, that's what we would all want. I do think that the relationship component is essential in that. I'm not going to work with anybody who I don't have good rapport with. And again, this can be tough to like suss out through online and like your SoundCloud account. It's like obviously you should have music posted online. If you want people to hear what you're doing, you should have it up there. But you've just got to meet in person, and you've got to feel out that person's vibe. And when you really like someone as an individual, and you see where they're coming from, or you can just talk. Like, you should be able to just hang out with who you're working with. I mean, that's my strategy. Again, I mean, people may disagree, but that's the way I work. I work where I'm comfortable.
I feel the same vibe exactly. It's like that's exactly what.
Well, some people are very business oriented, and they're like, well, we got to get this deal done. Let's go. We're under a time crunch, and it's like, okay, cool.
That was me 2 hours ago. Come on.
Right. Well,
jump in.
I think I wanted to comment on like how do you get people to the room.
Yeah.
There's something that there's the past two South by Southwest. There was the Nerdcore showcase, and Michael's like, "You guys come to this. We'll get you in." And they're trying to basically treat me like a rock star. I just felt like I was just some dumb guy that had like a weird game. These guys just treated me like I was just like some big deal. And so I'm showing up at this thing, and I'm watching all these rappers, and they're just kind of like, "Oh yeah." And then like after I see some of these performers, I'm like basically begging Michael's like, "We gotta get dual core. Next time we do a track, I gotta get dual core." And surely enough, dual core he lives here in Austin now. Amazing rapper, but just invite people out to your shows, and I don't know, just engage them.
Something that
I want them both.
Something that we didn't mention yet is game jams.
Yeah.
And I can tell you my story actually, which is an interesting story. As a student in Boston, Berklee College of Music, I knew that I wanted to do music and sound design for video games. And so what's the best way to do it? To get to know the community, network. I went to all of the Boston indie game developer events, which are a little bit more flourishing than here. There are a lot of events here, of course, but in Boston it was something interesting. And I got to know everybody there, and throughout the game jams that happened during the year, there's Global Game Jam, Ludum Dare, there's a bunch of other local game jams that happen around that I would definitely recommend all of you to keep your eyes out for them. That's how I got to know Alex for the first time. Alex Schwartz is the CEO of Alchemy Labs. And basically, we did a game jam together, which was a silly game with a truck driving across the border to infiltrate immigrants. It's a side scroller called Smuggle Truck. That after the game jam, we polished it a little bit. We worked on it. We made it a full game, and Apple rejected it because it's offensive. And so we made a quick pivot and turned it into Snuggle Truck with a bunch of teddy bears that are in a truck, and you're trying to not make them fall. And it's exactly the same game, and that, of course, went into the store. And I've done since then. I've done every single game that Alchemy has done, that Alex did, that required any sound. There wasn't porting related or all that. And that meant a lot of, like, the company grew very slowly. It took about 5 years, but I've consistently delivered amazing stuff. And even when I was in a completely different city, I was in LA, he was in Boston, or in Austin here, still making sure I always bring the highest quality, the best audio and music and service I can give, and eventually, when Alchemy grew to what we are right now, when we created the first released virtual reality game with the Vive, for example, he already knew if he needed an internal guy, as someone who is full-time in the company, that there's not going to be any auditions or anything. He's going to just bring me in, and that's exactly what he did. He moved me from LA to here. So that was like a 5-year-long networking. And don't get me wrong, it's not, like, Alchemy was not the only thing I did in those 5 years. I did TV shows and shorts and a full feature film as a composer and a lot of sound design for other video games, and I'm also a music producer, so like I worked with artists and I did everything I could possibly do while keeping like everything at the highest level, and like that's kind of what I think networking means to me.
I just want to jump on that. So first up, kind of show of hands, who knows what a game jam is? All right, so that's actually really encouraging. I'm glad to know that because I love these stories. And funny enough, I don't know what it is. It's just something about, like, you go to battle with somebody for like 48 hours, and you just turn around something and you just have that bond. I've got some of my best friends that I've ever met, or some of the best people I've ever met are people that I'm still friends with, even if I haven't seen them for 3 years, because of like game jam situations that happened like 4 years ago. So it is important. It's a great networking tool, and at the same time, if you are a musician, it's good to know about those game jams. And I'm curious, Jared, on your side, I mean, are you very familiar with game jams? Do you think in general people know about game jams?
Well, there you go.
Perfect. All right, we're solving it. No, I can't stress it enough. It is a great way to meet the developer community and work on those projects and make those connections. Because these are the fun projects. These are the, come on. It's stuff like that where let's come up with a stupid idea. I mean, I did back in 2013, I did a game jam with a few other people, and we did Route 666, which is all about, it's a side-scroller, shooter game of like basically trying to get from LA to Las Vegas to defeat Lucifer. That was it. And I did the audio for it, and it was a ton of fun. And I'm still friends with those people today. So it's a great way to meet people, and those things will continue going. And I mean, those are the fun friendships. I do have to pivot though. I have to pivot the conversation to that's fun. Let's talk about how do we get paid. How do we get paid in some of these situations? What are some ways for whether they're small projects or big projects, and let's be real here. I mean, like, as soon as money comes involved, it's not that it's not fun, but it's officially a business at this point. You have to advocate for yourself as a musician. You have to advocate yourself as a business person, as a game developer. And Adam, I want to turn to you on this because you had this great point before about hard dollars versus soft dollars. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, a lot of where it starts out, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're an artist or a visual artist or a musical artist or a game developer artist. know that what you do has value and has worth. And so it's a discussion with yourself first. Are you a professional? A professional gets paid. Or are you an auteur? You're doing it for the art and other stuff gets in your way. Or are you somewhere in between? There's some personal decisions you're going to need to make for what you want to accomplish. And then when you're looking at that value, it depends where you are in your career, where the opportunity is. I have been doing voice acting for 16 years at this point. I still do pro bono work occasionally, but it's usually for genuine pro bono stuff. It's battered shelters awareness or things like that. I'm a pro, and so when I'm doing commercial work, I charge commercial rates. But I also work together with people to figure out, okay, where's the opportunity where I can help you out with something that you're doing? They may be more starting out. They may be doing a Kickstarter. They may be doing kind of spec work or that kind of thing. So it's a discussion all the time. As far as hard dollars versus soft dollars, hard dollars is real cash, Soft dollars are, what can people do for you? What can they do in kind? So sometimes that's advertising. Sometimes that's PR and awareness for your work. Sometimes it's creating other opportunities and introducing you to others. Like, hey, I don't have time or money for hiring people. And I'll do this. Like, if I can't pay some of these rates, I'm like, look, you've got your rates. Hold on to your rates. That's not my budget. I don't want you to drop your rates for my project. It's just not a fit for both sound and for budget. But I've got this friend who runs this studio, and I know what his needs are, and you're a perfect match for him, and I'll make that introduction. That may never come back to me. That's not the point. The point is making sure that we take care of other creatives in a very real sense and keep that thing moving and rolling forward. So for me, it's a hard dollar versus soft dollar. It's what you do has value. Hold on to that value. Have a conversation with your partners, whatever you're making together, for how you make it great for all of you. And all of you are taking risks. When we do projects, we've recently moved into publishing, we don't do minimum guarantees, for example. I hate MGs. But putting all the risk on a person, when everybody's, if they're being intelligent, planning stuff out, they're all taking risk together. They shouldn't, no one person or creative should be penalized if things don't work out. Try to do something great together and then get paid for it.
All right, so if I want to go like on a tactical level, right? Let's say I'm a band here, I'm a band or a musician here in Austin, and I've got some tracks on SoundCloud. You like one of those tracks, and you want to use a track in a trailer, right? And that trailer might be for this launch, and it may be for launches. It might be for like subsequent versions, right? Because maybe it's like a theme. You're not hiring this musician to do the work, but you love this track or you love a portion of this track. Like, how should the musician advocate for that work, and how should you negotiate that deal to use that track for trailers?
So I'm going to talk about me as a client hiring somebody or getting a track, and I want on the musical side for you guys to talk about that. For me, one thing I do with, especially independent musicians, is make sure they're working with somebody on the legal side or somebody that has some legal awareness that's giving them advice outside of me. And I actually do that for all of our partners, vendors, and contractors, because it's actually kind of important that I'm not the guy giving business or legal advice for something that I'm trying to get for me. That's just a conflict of interest. But I'm very clear when we're looking at musical tracks or work for hire, things like that, exactly what I'm paying for, what they're delivering, what it's going to be used for. A genuine work for hire, this super oversimplifies it, but if it's a work for hire, I'm buying that track or that work in perpetuity for whatever. But it's got to be spelled out in the contract what the use is, what the term of the contract is. Is it buyout? Is it time to buy out? Is it for particular use, like just a trailer, and then if this thing gets picked up, then it's renegotiated after that. Same thing with game audio, right? We could do a soundtrack, and people in here who I will not out could probably talk about that. But you can have a soundtrack you negotiated for your game, but then you don't have the rights to sell the soundtrack separately, right? And you want to know that before you're trying to have a discussion about selling it separately. That's not when you want to find out you can't. And again, for me, and it's going to be different for other people, I want to make sure it's a non-usury kind of thing. I want to make sure that everybody wins, everybody knows what's used for what, and we have conversations. There will be times where I'll say, you know what, we've got your stuff in the game, we've negotiated it for the trailer, we want to do some derivative work stuff, but we're doing some soft dollar stuff. We're actually crediting you at the tail slate of this trailer. We're putting you guys up there, we're putting your name up there so that there's awareness that this isn't just a thing that is typed through Panic Button. We're bringing awareness to the artist who also made this thing happen. So there's a lot of opportunities to discuss, and piggybacking on something Jared said about what you're bringing in your original sound, there's a flip side of that too, right? There are these work for hire projects that are, and maybe Daniel can talk about this too. You're bringing musicians in, and you have needs, right? You're trying to fit, the first chair and the second chair. You've got these different musicians and different sounds that you need, and you need to hit certain things. And yes, you want it to be unique for your project, but you're getting paid to deliver what you're getting paid to deliver. So you need to make sure that you treat that seriously and deliver on that contractual commitment. Because there are all sorts of cartoons about people who are like, I'm doing this operatic piece, I'm gonna get some voiceover. I don't need you to do opera right now. But opera would be amazing. No, I don't. Please stop. I just need you to do the voiceover. So just, for me, it's a discussion, and it has contractual teeth at the end. Because it lets people know, and it's not in a penalizing way. Too many contracts are used as penalizing things. I use them as just clarifying things. I try to keep them really short. I try to make sure everybody knows what they're used for. And I put things in there like additional uses, for example, and I'll put a list. Will be negotiated separately, just to give people a comfort level of where it'll be used, where and when. And then I try to partner with people who will work with me. It's like, you know what, Adam, you can totally use that piece for the trailer because I think it's perfect. It's fine. And that would give me a little written thing that says I can. Because we're all trying to do something great together.
Right. One of the producers at Alchemy keeps saying, if you have to fall back to the contract all the time for like what you're allowed and not allowed to do, then you're doing it wrong. You need to know your rights. You need to understand what you're giving, and sometimes it's okay to give if you get compensated right, or if that's the budget of that specific project that you're working on. But yeah, falling back to the contract is not like, or to the legal team is where things get nasty. It's not where like regular coursework is supposed to happen.
Yeah, if I can interject. So
no, you may not.
Don't do it. I think that just in general, I'm just going to say this because it seems like
I was expecting interrupting this whole time. You guys
we're very civil. We're professionals, man. All right, so I would just say that all musicians, like, you need to know what you are worth, and that can be difficult as a musician. So, and one of the basic divides probably is that, okay, cool, like, let's use your example again. You're like a guitarist in a rock band, but you really like video games, or you want to work in this. So, like, how do you need to have a rate. You need to know what your value is, and that's based on your time. I mean, that's how I think about it. So how long does it take you to produce this result, and how much does that cost? So if you don't know that right now, like, go home and figure that out.
Yeah, by the way, that's the minimum, because after that there's prestigiousness. And
yes, oh, totally. But I mean, like, there's probably people in here that don't even have that. So, like, because that's still, like, that's another, like, a business level of, when you're a musician, you're trying to, like, play gigs. You know what I mean? Like, so you may not have a full portfolio laid out online with all this information that's easy to find. So that's, I'm just going to state that, like, you should have that readily available. And if you don't, even if within contact, like, you should be able to figure that out quickly and respond in a professional way, when that comes up.
So do you think musicians should have their own, like, intellectual IP as well? Like, they should have that whole legal structure set up so that they understand that part? I mean, you need to have yours set up as a business owner, as a small game studio, but does that make that process easier when you're working with musicians that have that, like, legal part set up?
Well, there's, like, some really just, like, small basic legal stuff that every artist needs to know, like, like, there's no contract, there's no IP assignment for your song or something, then you, the musician and artist, still own that stuff.
Right.
And, some artists put things in their contracts where, like, if I don't get paid, then I still own it. Like, let's say, like, you pay, like, I'll pay you half now, and then half when we're done, and if the other half doesn't come, it's like, okay, well, this is mine, and I can sue you and take it out of the game or whatever.
Yeah. I want to add something to what you said, though. Both sides are businesses.
Yep.
It is very important to understand that if you're, as a musician, not considering yourself as a business, then you're not there to earn money, or you don't have the infrastructure to make that happen. And so both sides need to think about it in the same exact perspective, and yes, understand what the consequences of different types of contracts are, and what can happen, and what you're willing to bend into, or what you're not willing to bend into. And many of the times, the developers, again, don't have that big interest to monetize out of your music. It's not the goal. But, and I'm saying that, and it's kind of weird that I'm saying that, because Alchemy actually tries to get, or makes sure that we have the full IP for all the music that we create. And there's a reason for that. We want control over it. But again, that's something that that is negotiated or worked with, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we know what we want. The artist should know what he wants.
If you're doing commercial work, I mean, you're a business, right? As a voice actor, separate from what I do for studio work, I'm a sole proprietorship of my voice acting business, and have been for a long time. And so it's very important to look at that. I said earlier, I really want individual artists and contributors to have legal and business advice and things like that, because some people are good at that on their own, some aren't. Find someone who you trust, who takes care of any of the gaps. You should do that regardless. Find gaps in your life, have other people fill them. It's awesome. I recommend it.
All right. So I think we got to jump into Q&A. First off, guys, round of applause for these guys. Let's see what I got here. Let's see, questions for the panel.
I was going to say this while you're looking at it. So, something that Jared said, and it's not to disagree, but it's also a rather need for us to argue. So one of the things that you said that I liked that was important was you said, you need to know your value, right? Sometimes it's hard for a musician. That's hard for people, right? One of the challenges that I've run into and Austin's had a real problem with this, with the interactive side, the music side, the acting and film side. All these silos considering themselves, like it's more challenging, or it's harder, or we're more special, or no. All of this is hard for all of us. We're all trying to create, we're all trying to make. And I think it's really important that we recognize that, because there's an empathy that adds to that relationship and networking that's pretty important. Because it reminds us that, I'm trying to get a game made, and that's stupid hard. And you're trying to get your music out there, that is stupid hard. There's just all these different roles, and people are working so hard. That empathy goes a long way. Sorry.
No, apologize.
Yeah. Well, I think you're actually agreeing, and then that shows that that's really nice that you stated that, because we're all on the same side here. We're all creative people. We're trying to bring art into the world. Art is hard, right? I mean, so let's help each other do that. Yep. That's why we're here, right?
Yep. All right, so looking at the questions for the panel. Okay.
Oh, that's how you...
To just follow on, thanks, by the way, great conversation. But I'd like to challenge you guys on kind of with Jared on what you said there, but challenge you guys about put yourselves in the shoes of some, people in a band. They're not game developers. They don't care about game development. They care about making their song and other things, not necessarily in that order. So, challenge is what can you do for them, not as how can their music help your game, how can your godlike game powers help their song, and what are strategies that you could offer bands starting up like that they're not necessarily going to become game developers, but they're interested and they want to engage in it, and they want to participate. I think it's great that game developers are reaching out to musicians in that way. And I would say one strategy is get a case of beer and drive around and listen to the loudest garage in your neighborhood and show up and go, that's awesome, guys. Because I do think game jams and all the stuff we do as game developers, I don't see many people from those garages showing up at those events, right?
That's the problem.
But they are right down the street here tonight and every night, right? So go out and engage them on their ground, and that's and think about how you can use the great technologies and opportunities to empower them.
I mean, that's like a big deal for me. Like, when I go see these artists that I usually get invited to these shows, like, I'm just like, as soon as I see that set, I'm like immediately thinking like, oh, now I want to do a third song. Or if it comes to like composition, scores and stuff, like, you know, when we were doing Battle Sloths, we didn't really have a whole lot of money on the project. And we just had this college student just kept sending us music and just like, we gotta get this guy. He was living in Boone, North Carolina, and his life was just jamming, and then going home and writing music. And this guy was just a complete machine. And we were just showing pictures of the level, and all of a sudden we had a song that sounds exactly like Castlevania. And we didn't even ask him, like, we didn't even give him any direction. He just like was, he just kind of in his own.
Like we're talking about was going to shows, going to events. I go to coffee and beers and lunch and breakfast all the time with people. And sometimes we talk getting into the game industry. Sometimes we talk how to get more visibility for their music. Sometimes we talk about the film we're going to do or things like that. It's just a lot of conversations. Sometimes it turns into something. Sometimes it doesn't. And we're all time constrained. That's the other thing. Because the flip side that we didn't talk about, be really careful with networking in that so Austin's amazing, right? So it's and North Carolina has a super vibrant game development scene that at the time I was there was actually much bigger than even here. But one thing to be careful of with networking is that the only thing that you ever do is not just networking. If you meet with me for like the 28th time over the course of 3 years and explain how you want to get into game development and you still haven't done anything, I lose patience, right? Especially if I'm spending time giving you direction, giving you tools, introducing you to people or things like that. This is a very real world scenario I'm going through. It's not just a person. So it's going to be really important that if you're going to create all the time. Tools are so available, and it's a discipline thing to create. It's hard. There was so yesterday was Jack Kirby, his 100, if he was alive, to be his 100-year birthday. So Jack Kirby is Jack King Kirby is the father of comics for all intents and purposes, right? Captain America, Thor, Black Panther, Darkseid, New Gods, Celestials, everything, right? So this guy was a machine that created all the time. It's why we have the Marvel Universe. It's why we have the cinematic Marvel Universe. It's why we have most of DC. It's why we have Atlas Comics. It's all this stuff. So Olivia Coipel, who's an artist I really like, and Jock, who's an artist I really like, both posted something similar yesterday, where they said, when I get stuck, I turn on my music, I try something else, I go walk the dog, I talk to people, and I work to get unblocked. Jack Kirby had a pencil, and he did. Right? And that's what all of us need to do. You just need to be creating all the time, not creating blockers for it, which include networking events. It's really easy for me to say, I have this thing I have to do, but I can go grab a beer with other people, like-minded people. That's super safe. It's not working sometimes.
All right. I have to read this. Because this is, all right, so I'm just going over this questions for the panel. We only got one response. Thanks, guys. Did all this work to put this together. Okay, question for the panel here. How do you ensure your team can pay all their mortgage/drug habits while developing your first game?
As a new developer, I did not make that guarantee. Like a lot of our team was profit sharing. If anything, the only people that were getting paid were the musicians and some of the artists. It was just part of whatever they wanted to negotiate for the contract. Yeah, we had people that believed in the project, what we were doing. And obviously when we got legitimized by Humble Bundle, and then again with Rooster Teeth, it kind of became like this thing where it's like, okay, well now we're gonna have like some social media muscle, which made it attractive for like the rappers and musicians to get involved, because then there's just more to, better, good ways to promote your stuff through that.
That was a really good example of like you were passionate about the work that you were doing, and And then that resonated with other people, it resonated with these musicians. So then they were like, dude, we got to get a part of this, you know, and then you guys would meet up, you got to go out to shows, they would invite you to shows, right? And you kind of started working together and you were professional enough to kind of figure out like how is this going to work, you know, and then at some point, you know, the behemoth of Rooster Teeth came along and said, we like that one. And whether it's you as the game developer or it's the musicians that are part of it, like the whole thing just exploded, right?
Before we were, you know, became published by Rooster Teeth, back when we were doing the Humble Bundle, we took a chunk of that money and did that rap song, and, you know, I wrote the hook, if you're three-toed sloppy, you don't give a fuck, put your middle claw in the air. Michael Kill, like, was just, like, taking all this, like, stuff from me, and just kind of like, and I was like, I had no idea he was going to use any of it. And then he sent me back the first cut, and he had that hook in there, and I was just like on the floor laughing, like I couldn't believe he used like my dumb hook. But these guys did a lot of world building for us. Like it was just like now these sloths were like criminals, and they were like getting into trouble, and you know I don't know. We didn't really limit them. We didn't say you can't do this, this, and this, or you have to do this, this, and this. We're like, here's the game. Make something for us. Make something that's you know, inspired by the game, and do a song for it. Like we didn't give them like a bunch of bullet points. Like we kind of like let people bring their creativity to the project because you know if they're there wanting to be involved with you, chances are they're excited about what you're doing already.
You feel that people should get paid for their work,
Absolutely.
I think, right?
So Alchemy has always been very strict for it. And even when it was just Alex doing stuff, he made sure there's like right contracts and people are getting compensated. And as we grew and as I became a full part of the team, it was always very clear. Voice actors were doing the best we can to get the correct budget. Our budgets are not high per se, but they are good compensation. And yes, it's very important that if someone does work for us, that we compensate them. And I think even outside of Alchemy, when I did my own project, I really tried to work like that. And I think we talked about it at some point. I try to set goals for the projects that I do, and if I know that I'm going to monetize out of it, or if I plan to monetize out of it, I do either a share, like some of us are doing, like you're doing, or trying to like pay for it in advance from my own money, because it's easier to manage that way, and it's I don't like to put other people at risk, let's say this way, if I can. So I guess that's my view on that.
I have to ask you guys, so we're up against it, we're right there at 8 o'clock. How many people had questions? Raise your hand. We got 1, 2, 3. All right, is that okay if we go like another 5 minutes? Maybe we'll do kind of like a lightning round thing? Is that cool? You good? I got thumbs up. I got no, I want to drink beer now. What is it? Tell me.
Drink beer and
Can we do 5 minutes of questions? Is that cool? All right, so I got 4 questions. You had your hands up. Who was it? I got 1, 2, so I'll just go this way. All right, so you're first.
So I was wondering, for musicians, do you guys generally, whenever you're sending samples out, do you like to, like Disaster Piece or Phantomac, do you like to hone in on one sound and show them that sound that you've experimented with, or do you like to branch out, maybe someone like Savant, and show them a bunch of different genres that kind of have your spin on it? And as developers, are you guys looking for someone who's more well-rounded, or someone who has one unique sound that they've completely made their own?
I would say definitely put your sound first. Just either way, like again, that's your currency. That's why people should work with you as opposed to working with somebody else. So yeah, like why should somebody work with me? Because I have this unique set of skills and I have this aesthetic, and so that's what I'm going to put forward. Now, if you want to do other types of work, you know, what type of work do you want to do? You know, like just ask yourself these type of questions. So if you want to do, you know, if you want to do, like, you have the whole range of voiceovers, right? So if you want to do that type of work, then have that range available. So I think it's just, it's not that difficult. It's just in terms of asking yourself some questions. What are you behind? You know, like, what do you believe in doing? What do you want to do? And make that available.
And I want to strengthen that a little bit for when I was working on my own portfolio, I had exactly that approach. And actually, I wanted to do more cinematic stuff, orchestral, giant things, because that's a big passion of mine. And so I focused a big part of my portfolio, my website, for something like this. And then I added on that the rest of the type of productions that I can do. So that if just because I love everything music and I love everything sound design, and I have a real passion for all of that. I want to kind of showcase that this is my ability. That's what I ended up doing, like all of this. That's my job. It's a single multi-hat wearer kind of thing, but it could have gone in any direction. I found orchestral, like a director that needed an orchestral kind of person, a composer for their film, and I did that for half a year. So it's all about what you're looking for and what you can represent in the highest level possible.
So assuming everybody agrees that you want to ensure that the artist is paid for their work, and also that the appropriate documentation and contracts are in place to ensure that they are. How do you ensure that the work that you're receiving is of a quality that you're going to make sure and get value out of this work? What do you have in place? Because we're dealing with creative elements here as well. What happens when something isn't what you receive is not the right fit, or it's crap, or whatever it may be? How do you manage those situations?
Delicately.
That person may never get hired again after that. I don't know. It's money and time wasted. It can happen. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with it a whole lot in my history.
Really demanding with the rap song, and I kind of Michael always makes fun of me for it. He's like, "Oh man, you did like 5 versions of that beat before you approved anything," and it was. But when you hit that right sound, it was magic.
But there's sorry. If you have some more.
Well, no, I mean, I think I'm extremely privileged and honored, fortunate to be working with passionate people that are willing to put up with that. That was the only time that ever happened, by the way. Most of the other people were just like delivering awesomeness like right away, and there's just like no question. Like, yeah, it's fine, it's amazing.
So with that being said, like, I also have a second opinion about that as well. Revisions can also happen, and like quality assurance, and I know that the person I hired wants to give his best as well, and many of the times, a second chance can be given. It's not like an absolute thing, and we're all working in creative positions, and so we know that sometimes it doesn't come up to you the first attempt, and sometimes there's a miscommunication or there's misunderstanding of what the actual goal of what the product that I need from the musician in this case. So there is that chance to say, this is not what I was looking for. I can't use this. Here's what I think might help it, and let's give it another shot.
I think for me, it's a collaboration. It needs to be, especially with new relationships. It's super iterative and super tight. It's a lot of communication. Just to feel out, okay, how are we working process-wise? Are we making sure that we're getting the stuff that I heard, or that you showed me before, and it's coming up again? And I do the same thing, whether it's art or music or voiceover or that kind of thing. And I think that helps a lot, just to figure out, okay, as we're figuring out the pattern, and then you cut early. What I've fallen into before and had to avoid is, yes, it's a creative endeavor, but I can't afford someone to go off and beyond for 7 or 10 days, and then come back and be totally off mark. And then, in addition, on my side, for the really tight feedback, it's got to be concrete feedback. It's got to be actionable concrete, not, oh, I like that, or I don't like that. I tie it into what the requirements are for the tone, for the pacing, for the particular genre, for the project, and for the use. And I make sure that I hit all 4 of those when I'm giving feedback, because otherwise it's not helpful. I mean, it's nice to hear vague stuff like I like that. It's not nice to hear vague stuff like I don't like that. They're both invalid.
Yeah. If I can add one more thing to that too quickly. From the musician side, like, or from the developer side, whatever side you're on, not every relationship is the right fit. You know, so, and that's fine. Like, that's okay. That doesn't mean that you failed, like you're over, you know, like I picked the wrong gig. You know, you can, because I've had stuff like that. I've got hired to do stuff. It just, whatever, this specific thing, it didn't fit. That's not necessarily a loss either. Like, I did that. It was like conscientious work. I can still show that as work that I did. So just putting that point out there.
All right, we got time for one more question. And was it? Yeah.
Hi there. So, as an independent artist and a game developer, I'm really passionate about everyone in creative partnerships, especially getting what they need, people getting paid fairly, and keeping as many rights as possible. And it does seem that licensing could be a solution to this. I was wondering if any of you have experience in licensing music as opposed to commissioning it, and if you haven't, would you consider it?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're super flexible in the way we do things, whether it's work for hire or revenue share or deferred payment or those kind of things. One of the things that we watch for, though, is going back to the shared risk side of things. People are putting a bunch of stuff into a creative work, and if there are too many pieces that come out of that creative work, then it's not interesting to anyone. It also creates legal encumbrances and things like that. So it is a discussion to have. Have looked at licensed music and things like that. A lot of times, I prefer to work local, and there tends to be less heavy licensing than there are from sound banks or those kinds of things. That said, we've worked with some good artists locally who have good representation that I like. They're very collaborative, and so we're able to work with them to do the licensing that works for all parties. It really just depends on the project it fits and what we want to do with it. Going back to what you're saying for Help Me, ideally, you're able to do something and you own the everything so that you're able to do all sorts of stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have the artist, and I hate the phrase because it's a terrible and scary phrase, but it should be, you have the artist waive all moral rights to the work that they create for you. There are other ways where you do it from a collaborative perspective, but again, it's collaborative, right? A lot of times, contracts are there as a catch-all. I use them as a clarifying. If you go back to, hey, we have to go back to the contract, there's a failure, and you try to avoid those things. It would be nice if we looked at more all collaborative and communicative and things like that. But there are stereotypes of evil attorneys or evil business exploitive people or usury or things like that for a reason, because those things exist. So you have to take care of yourself. Any thoughts?
I've never licensed music. We've always commissioned, so all of our stuff is fresh out the kitchen.
The downside of licensing is you're sharing with somebody else, potentially, and that's like it's even our signature sound for Panic. Like, hey, do you want to license this? No, I don't want to. Would Intel license the Intel sound? It would not.
Right, it's a signature sound of your game, so preferably it would be a unique sound that no one else has it. So less for licensing in general. I think small indie game developers may, for budget restraints, look for licensing, but I'm not sure it's actually the right approach for them if they want to succeed, because a unique sound of a game definitely helps the game.
I think you could negotiate local, credible talent for a rate at or less generic licensing that you have to share with somebody else.
Dude, we gotta get to drinking,
I
dude.
just wanted to say, we did a game to the top when we licensed all our music mostly from the Austin base. It was amazing, really easy to do, super supportive of us and them. So I have to say, it was awesome, and the reviews have been stellar for our soundtrack. So I want to say, reach out to local artists, go to the shows. That's how I found all my bands, was going to the shows and check them out. And it's really awesome to support them and have them support you as well. So I would say it's been super, super positive for us. You live in a city with so many amazing artists, so go and support them. So that's what I would say.
By the way, throwing it out there, have you, show of hands, who has heard of this game To the Top? All right, that's a fair. Of those names, oh wait, keep your hands up. I want to do this. Of those hands, which of you are musicians and not game developers? Guys, I can't recommend this game enough. It's a phenomenal VR game. Definitely check it out. They know what they're talking about. They've actually had a lot of success working with local musicians as well. But we got to cut it. We're already running past our time. I appreciate you guys' patience. Big round of applause for you guys. I got two quick things, and then we're going to jump into networking. So first off, it actually got brought up to me by someone else in the audience as I was kind of running around, but I never introduced myself. My name is Randall Robbins. I'm the vice president of the Austin Game Devs chapter. I helped put this together. I also work as an electronic musician, kind of on the side, and do a lot with Feedback Alliance. On the sheet, on the one sheeter, like the info sheet that you guys probably got, you'll notice Feedback Alliance is on there. They've been a huge help for putting a lot of this together as well. They're a phenomenal local group to kind of get to know of. And on the side, I also started, you'll probably see this thing, Gray Vulture on the bottom. I started that 2 years ago. It's my ability, so what I do is I do project management, and I do lean startup business development, and what I do on the side is I help game developers and indie musicians with their businesses, getting things set up. So if you have questions, feel free to ask me those, whatever you have. I'm available for questions afterwards, and that's me. I've got my cards up at the front. You can get that.
Randall.
Dude, I gotta show you the picture of me at Costco loading up all that pizza and beer earlier. Like it's a lot of muscle. Anyway, that being said, I got one last thing. So for all of you that signed up for or did the sign-in process, and you got a little ticket for that ultimate sweet pass to Austin GameCon, I need a volunteer. I need someone who's maybe muscular like me, someone that knows audio kind of like me, maybe someone who also has like a meetup, maybe this Thursday at Good Night. I can't think of who that is. Is it that guy in the back? Come here. Guys, I want...
Oh, good.
You just got it. Hold on a second. Hey, Luke.
Hey.
You got the roll on you?
I do have the roll.
All right, first off, yeah, that does sound wrong. Who did not sign in today? Raise your hand. We got 1, 2. Dude, I gotta do this fast. We gotta roll fast through this. You sure? Yeah. All right. If you did not get a ticket, you got how many seconds? That's good. I'm gonna do one minute. You got 1 minute to get a ticket here. I wish I had some like music to play on this. Good. 30 seconds. And time. Nice. Oh, beach lost. Ticket time. All right. Thank you. Big round of applause for the hustle on that guy. Holy shit. All right. Now, you, sir, have a meetup this
Thursday. Good night. Come on over.
All right. What are you doing again?
Sound designer, composer, game audio meetup Thursday at the Good Night.
If I was a musician, would I care?
Absolutely. Come on by. network, meet the people. We just talked about hiring with bands you know, so you probably want to be a band people know.
And you're going to be here, right?
I'm going to be where?
We're here for like the next 45 minutes.
I'll be around.
What's your name?
Aaron Brown.
All right. I need a drum roll. Let's do like a foot stomp. Let's do that. Here we go. This is for the free all access pass to Austin Game Con. All right. Keep this coupon. 3.
Wait, that's it?
5, 2, 9, 3. Yeah, 5 seconds to claim this.
Read it one more time, Ray.
3, 5, 2, 2, 9, 3. Going once. Going twice. Out of here. You're out of here. Aww. Foot stomps. All right, who's going to get it this time? Who actually is still here that wasn't bored out of their minds? No, you're good. 3. Oh, that's a good start. I like where this is going. 5, 2, 2. No. 8. 7. 3, 5, 2, 2, 8, 7. Going once. Going twice. Out of here! Ah, God. All right, we're doing this until someone wins, I swear to God. Foot stomps, foot stomps, foot stomps, foot stomps. And that's a good final sound. We'll record that later.
I like that sound.
All right. 5. I'm kidding. 3. Suckers. 3. Let me start over. Clearing the palette, clearing the palette. First number, 3, 5, 2, 2, 9, 9. Yes! We got one! Hey! Perfect. Oh, hey, how you doing? How you doing, big guy? Come up on stage. Come up on stage. Fuck it. Yeah, let's go. How you doing? So, what's your name?
Eric.
Eric, what do you do?
I'm a guitarist and music composer.
Oh shit! How the hell did you find out about this thing?
Through a friend, Jeff McNolan.
Oh, perfect.
Jared Marshall.
Oh, there you go. All right. So people can find you later.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Well, you have an all-access pass to Austin Gamecock. All right, guys. One more time, big round of applause for these guys. They came all the way out here just to make you guys happy and answer your questions. Big round of applause for Devers Plexi, right over there. He did the audio before. Come on. He brought all this shit. You know what this is. He makes music. Grab him a beer from that cooler. I don't give a shit. All right, it's time to do the networking. Hang out, have fun. Please clean up after yourselves. And let's just rock and roll, guys. Thank you so much.